I'm happy to see that folks stuck around for the sprayer session because I would have to assume that every operation in this building does not own their own sprayer. Would that be correct? Fair assessment. How many do own their own sprayer? Fantastic. So I would assume that you read the labels very carefully, right? So today is not a sales pitch. Today is an education piece. So even if you don't own your own sprayer or you do own your own sprayer, I think that this is very important that we read about this that I'm going to put up here. As Justin mentioned, Ag Leader offers Right Spot and Precision Planning offers Symphony. I'm not going to tell you price points because, again, this is an education piece. This is not about trying to sell you something. So what is Symphony? So Symphony is a nozzle-by-nozzle control, so we can control rate, swath, and turn compensation. I do not have a Jason Webster basket of giveaways, but I still would like your participation. What happens when we make a turn? What's that outside boom do? Goes faster, right? What's the inside boom do? Yeah. So do you think the rate on the outside is the same as the rate on the inside? Okay. So with nozzle-by-nozzle control, we can actually control that rate per nozzle. So we have turn compensation. What happens if we put too much chemical down? Probably damage our crop. What happens if we don't put enough? We don't kill the weeds. So that's when we're going to get into reading a little bit more about these labels. We offer this. You have to run it with a Gen 3, so we will map those layers. Precision Planning came out with Panorama. I think it came out of beta last year. So you would be able to actually visualize your map data from using Symphony and overlay it with your planting acres. And that way you can line up your planting acres with your sprayed acres. How many people think your spray acres match your planting acres? Who can tell me what you think is the average amount of overlap per field? What was it? 4.9%. We're going to get into what that means for your operation. So what's it do? It allows you to maintain constant pressure in the boom to achieve the desired droplet size. So why does droplet size matter? Right? We're going to read this label here. So forgive me because my coworker made this and he's in Canada, so some of this is in centimeters. I don't know how many of you guys bring out the centimeter when you're looking at your boom height, but this is a lot of it's in centimeters. So right here it says classification, medium. On the bottom here, coarse. Can anybody name all of the tips that go on a sprayer? There's a lot of them out there, right? They're kind of like closing systems. There's hundreds of them. So right here, so it says numbers in table body are miles per hour with 20-inch spacings. So this grower here is trying to achieve 20 gallons per acre at 10 miles per hour. He has to have a pressure of 50 psi. What happens when you throw that hydrostat forward? Pressure goes up, right? What happens when you pull it back? Pressure goes down. How often do you think we're right? Not all the time, right? I'll show you that too. So at 14.1 miles a gallon, or I'm sorry, miles per hour, he's got to hold 100 psi. There you go. What changes there? It called for a coarse tip, right? Now if we speed up, we need a fine tip. By having nozzle-by-nozzle control and constant pressure, it doesn't matter how fast we go. Naturally, I'm from Northeast Ohio. We have nothing but pie-shaped fields. The family farm has about 1,500 acres, and I think we probably farm 60 different fields. I mean, that's fair, right? So if we're hiring somebody to do this, I would really like them to be educated to have what they're supposed to be spraying and what tips they're supposed to have. Not everyone does that. I worked at a co-op. I could tell you the last thing I did was read this label. Fair, right? What about wind? Do we take that into account? Probably not. Unless it's, hurricane out there, hurricane weather, then we're just not going to spray today. So why does droplet size matter? So we looked at that label. If our droplets are too big, we're not getting a full overlay on that weed. If they're too fine, we're not getting enough. So we use spray paper here. We can see a very different outline on this spray paper. How many of you guys have used spray paper? I would encourage you all that raise your hand that you own and operate your own sprayer to get spray paper. This will show you exactly what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. So when you don't have that good kill that you wanted, you now know why. Has anybody ever seen an angry Italian mother? It's not a trick question. My mother's Italian, and I could tell you, and what I'm going to show you here, what this guy did. If you burned down my mother's garden of tomatoes, you would be hit with the wooden spoon like I was. So here we go. Wind 6.7 mile an hour. We've got a very coarse tip. At 6.7 mile an hour, we are 1 foot off of drift. We got a coarse tip, 3 foot, a medium tip, 5 foot, a fine tip, 7 foot, and then we have our very fine, 16 foot. And that's only 6.7 mile an hour wind. Again, I live in the middle of a hayfield. It's 6.7 mile an hour all day, every day at the minimum. But we have to take account when we pick out which tip we're using, right? Like I said, if that was my mother's garden on this side, you guys would be toast. Has anyone seen that before? So by not keeping the correct pressure and not selecting the correct tip, this is what happens. So here we are. This is what the percentage of when we are actually right. Pretty scary to think, 49%. So I did graduate high school. I do not own 2 degrees like Clay does from Ohio State. But I could tell you if I had to test and it was 49%, I probably wouldn't have the degrees either, So here we go. Back to that label. We did change PSI. And this grower here selected 14 gallons per acre. He has to run 14.2 mile an hour at 50 PSI. So if you change speed and change pressure, it changes droplet size. Change speed plus keeping pressure equals changing the rate. If we have a PWM nozzle system that has constant pressure, it doesn't matter how fast or slow you go. In and out of the headlands, turn compensation. Anybody know what duty cycle stands for? That's how often our poppets are in and out on our nozzles. I'd like you guys to take a look at these two systems and see the simplicity of it. I'm not going to discredit my 10-year-old, but she can rebuild one of them nozzles in about 2 minutes. She's not an operator. Now, it's a little bit different in the field if I've got chemicals all over it, right? But they're minimal. So here we go. I keep walking in front of this, so you got my big head. Look at the legend over here. Purple is 7 mile an hour. Red is 12.5. Look at this. 10% of the time he's doing 22 plus gallons to the acre. You can see it over here, right? In and out of the headlands, going around the turns. 8.5 to 10 mile an hour. Finally worked his way up, and then 11 to 13 was actually hitting rate. So all nozzle body PWM components are replaced with no tools required. We have them back there. We can show you. You can take them apart. The guts of them are orderable and fairly cheap, to be completely honest. It says your OEM controls still work like they did before. So you'll still have the ability to use what you had on your hydrostrat. Nothing of that changes. So this is what we come up with. So it's 3/4 or 1 inch wet booms. Again, I know you guys are farmers. You like to get your hands on things. Go back there and take a look at it. It's very easy. We figure on 120-foot booms, it's about 13 man-hours, or 24. So this is the rebuild of the solenoid in the inside. So you can see the simplicity of it here. And then this is our swath. So as you can see in this video, it's nozzle by nozzle shutting off, so you no longer have overlap. So as an operator, you have to ask yourself the question, do I overlap? Am I applying too much? Should I just leave it? Will I damage the crop? You can see a clear difference here. Did they make the right decision? I would say probably not on the left side. So I already gave you the answer, 4.9% overlap. So you have here, he's got 55.4 acres planted, or 52.8 acres planted, 55.4 sprayed. 4.9%. So the Canadian had 13 people reply to him. You got your sprayer sizes here on the right. So their average was 3.52% overlap. So I got him to have like a breakout here of what this looks like, because the one grower that we used as this example was 3,500 acres. So planted corn, 1,457, applied spray acres, 1,457. So you can see how they match up here. But then you add the 4% to it. Look at how much drastic change that is on acres. So we have an average of four passes on the corn, 5 passes on the wheat, and 3 passes on the soybeans. Now, I know that's not ideal all the time on every farm. It's just an example. So 233 extra acres sprayed, 191 extra acres sprayed, and 147. So 571 extra acres with product applied in one season. What do you think that amounts to in chemicals? Pretty drastic, isn't it? So we did another ROI here. Everybody's crop plan is a little bit different. I know it's kind of blurry to see, and it's death by PowerPoint looking at these numbers. But this farmer here had $18,183 of extra applied chemicals. Do you think that pays for the system? So we figured it out here. It was an average ROI of 2.5 years on that one sprayer. And that's just chemical savings. That's not wear and tear on the sprayer. That's not maintenance. That's not hiring another operator. So with that being said, Symphony is the base product of Nozzle-by-nozzle, and we are headed in another direction, and it's called SymphonyVision. We are now applying the cameras to the sprayer. So over here you can see on this map, it shows weed severity. So we have 2 products. It's called Vision Spot and Vision Rate. Vision Spot would have a camera everywhere you have 4 nozzles. It will actually turn the nozzles on or off depending on the weed severity and weed density. So if we are needing to apply any chemicals, it's not applying anything. If we notice that there's a giant rag, we're going to hit it. Vision Rate, you would have half the amount of cameras, and you could set the parameters to what you want on minimum and maximums of how much rate you want to put, or how much chemicals you want to apply. So now that's what I'm going to leave you with. What does it cost you on your farm? We don't know, right? So I encourage you to think about your planted acres, think about how much you spray, and then think about what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, because I can guarantee if the average of 13 people is 3.5% overlap, those that are in this room here, we probably make up more than that. So that is it. That's what I got for you guys.